Hello and welcome to this episode where I'm going to ask for your help. Now, this is a sock I've been leveling up, obviously, because we're only level 61. Now, I'm sick of going through all the builds, and most of them are either useless, trash, or they don't really get you where you're going. So, I deliberately just picked up whatever gear I had on the ground, didn't temper them, didn't do the implicits, nothing. What I picked up is what I did. Now, we passed World Tier 3 at level 38. This is how we looked. This is the first row here. As you can see, it is nothing special. We were a firewall base sork. And you can see there's nothing special. That got us past World Tier 3. It did not go through very easily. Now, there is leeway for the fact that we didn't do the imprinting and the tampering and the resistances and all that. We survived because we were running Flame Shield, and also the amount of survivability the Sork has early is quite good. Now, that got us to level 50 before we couldn't even do World Tier 3. We had to change because we didn't have any chance of leveling any further. So, I went through a bunch and looked at different ones, tried a few. Most of them just weren't doing it or required a whole bunch of uniques or Ubers or just min-max skills, so everything just ran perfect. We did come across a Blizzard based, I would say, because that's the main skill we use, so I'm going to call it a Blizzard. It's meant to be versatile, meant to push 100 pits, and I don't think it's ever going to reach that. This is how we looked when we passed World Tier 3 to World Tier 4. Once again, we had no tempers, nothing. Our resistances were trash, and our gear, unfortunately, I chucked the staff, which I'm more upset because I don't have it, because the more I collected this, it's like seeing what I actually passed each tier with was actually quite impressive and proved that the builds virtually had nothing to do with it. You could probably put a bunch of random stuff in, make sure you get some defense, damage reduction, that sort of stuff, and pass it just as hard. It took me about an hour to get through World Tier 4, because this build still does not have damage. We have a 925 weapon. Pretty much all this is 925. There's a couple of pieces short. And obviously the boots, we haven't been finding many boots. I don't know what's up with that. And yeah, this is the gear we were running, the build that we got at the moment. This is the gear except for that staff, which, as you can see by the amount of damage that we're not doing and life and all that, we actually don't have like a god staff or anything. So yeah, this is the stuff we had. As you can see, I think along here somewhere, we had +3 to Blizzard boots that I didn't actually notice that we had until I swapped boots. That didn't help. And Blizzard. If we're in our own Blizzard after 3 seconds. That was purely by chance. Right now we're not doing resistances, we haven't tempered anything still, and we're still able to clear all the Nightmare Dungeons Tier 3. The tier 4 is where it starts coming in, and the difference in level and everything starts getting to the point where we'll need to put some resistance on. We can't go that sort of stubborn route much longer. But as long as we don't get kicked, because this is telling me I'm reconnecting, I'll show you what it's like on a Nightmare Dungeon level 1, which pretty much level 21, which level 1 for tier 4. Now we have a few, so I can potentially waste so it burnt our Nightmare Sigil more than likely, because I can't see the little marker. So that's always great, but we'll get that one out of there. I don't do blood blisters. So where the help comes in, with the event coming up that's going to have gold and XP and all that, it's going to be a little easier, I believe, to be able to do what I'm doing, checking out builds and re-rolling, because I've spent probably 200 million re-rolling between Necro, Barbarian and now Sork. And the Necro is the Barbarian can get us our Masterwork gear, but not pit push, and our Sork is fairly trash. So what builds that don't take any of the min-max to the 10th degree gear, no uniques that need to be max rolled and masterworked perfectly, no Ubers, pretty much a plug and play. If there's something that I need to go try to get a mastery of or whatever, fine. But yeah, something that's pretty much plug and play out of ideally the Barbarian, Necro or Sork, Druid or Rogue, but Druid's not my favorite and Rogue is mostly bugs. There's only like one build that's not bugged now that they've fixed it. Give me plug and play builds that I can try, and we can try to find builds that aren't just utter lies or just pretty much con jobs. And yeah, because as you'll probably end up seeing that in the near future, a lot of the top streamers with their builds, the ones that are renowned for pushing the builds to the max, will end up pushing further and further and further into the pits and get like godly pit runs and all that. The ones that aren't really known for that, like the hardcore players, they'll be running hardcore and trying to run hardcore with no gear and turn their cheats up to max and everything. So it's not like the builds are going to get any better unless some changes come, and then obviously it's up to what they nerf or don't nerf, or what they just plain out break. And now we're in trouble because we're lagging. Let me guess, it's because of the event coming up. Either too many people trying to get their builds and characters set, or Microsoft being Microsoft and just shouldn't touch games. Can we... Well, as long as you stay still and just die, we'll take that sort of glitched out. Okay. As you can see, we're able to do 75. Only because I leveled up to 60. The higher level we get, the more survivability, which means our survivability isn't actually going up. So yeah, plug and play builds. I don't mind grinding away. It's pretty much what I've been doing this entire season. I've been having to recoup millions and tens of millions that I've spent on various builds, so I can then try another build. I think when I tried the pit pushing builds and stuff that meant to work and all that with the barb, one of my latest videos, I think I spent 40-50 million just doing those two builds, and then had to spend another 20 plus million to swap builds again, so I had a build that actually could do tier 61 when the pit pusher build struggled to do a tier 61. So you can probably understand why I'm over all these. They're not even terrible builds, they're like not builds, because like streamers are running their own builds that they've posted on websites and whatever, and doing godly things with them. But pretty much, unless, can we please play? But yeah, unless you, oh my goodness. Okay. Hopefully the loot event isn't like this, else no one's going to be getting any loot anywhere. The goblins were just going to be safe all day long. But yeah, a lot of the streamers are looking more and more like either their builds aren't their builds, or their builds are like almost not lies, because they're super max their gear out and they're using their build, so on face value their builds work. When you go to try it, it doesn't. So unless you got the super max build and all that, you can't necessarily say that it doesn't work, which is probably part what they go for. The fact that people can't actually say that build doesn't work because they've got 8 hours a day for a week into one build that they get all the god drops and note the triple affixes and god tier equipment real easy. And yeah, like a normal player isn't going to be able to play Diablo or Path of Exile and get god tier rares as easy as picking up gold. Whether that's just streamer luck or loot table manipulation or streamer servers or whatever you want to put it down to. Certain streamers are always getting the ultra rares and that easier than other people, and I think the go-to term is streamer luck. It's like in first person shooters, any of the streamers that wipe maps and the other players don't seem to be able to see them as easy as they can see them. It's put down to server desync and all that, which is a little overused because a couple of the top streamer cheats for Tarkov can't be, they're pretty much in control of BSG and can't be banned, so they like poking their tongue out at all the people. But that's another story. But as you can see with the build, we're not exactly destroying it. There's a couple of affixes I can't get because they need to drop and I haven't had them drop. And there's a couple of uniques that is recommended, but obviously we need them to drop as well. So we need streamer type RNG to play 90% of these builds, because they're either built by some build creator program thing or they just copied from one. And yeah, slowly getting the glyphs up, and slowly because I can't go much faster with this build. That's the annoying part. I want to get further and further and level and get this character to level 100, but I can't get there. And you can't tell me that's because I don't have the tempers and all that and a little bit more damage. Like, it would help, but it would bring from level 61 fighting 75 plus, it would bring us up to them, and it would be like us going through World Tier 3 beating things up. It wouldn't actually turn us into some god tier build. Yes.
Anything breaks, the fortress holds.
So yeah, if you got a plug and play build that we can play and try and level, and I don't mind grinding out and everything, but I don't want a boring build where it's like, oh, eventually once you get all this gear you'll be good, but you can't get to this level without all this gear. Like, that's 90% of the builds. You need Ubers to make it work, which is just silly in my opinion. And like, I'm not even, this is the leveling build I tried first, because obviously we were leveling. Go for a leveling build. Peaked out at World Tier 3. Like, what did they do? Tested in World Tier 2? And I'm pretty sure a lot of what I've done is down to me having played so many times and trying all these builds and having to do the same thing over and over and over again. Because most new players, they wouldn't be in World Tier 4 by now. They would have been dead. And maybe got to World Tier 3 around 55 to 60. Now there are some builds where you can just go through, and as long as you got certain combinations you're all good and it looks good for the build creator, but they're not doing anything to make it happen. So this is my sort of prove a point sort of build. And yeah, Firefighter Sword, I wanted to be a fire based, but apparently none of the build creators I came across had stolen anything that was any good. And yeah, we're doing this without deliberately having any of the stuff. As you can see there, that doesn't even apply. We must have 2 of that somewhere. We got that there. We have a look here, lightning spear. We actually have that. How fortuitous. Thorns, ball lightning. Like, we're just running random rubbish, no tempering, no masterworking, and we're achieving, which pretty much puts most of the builds, in my opinion, in the bin, because it has nothing to do with those builds. Pretty much the only thing that's got us through is the fact that we have ice armor and flame shield. If we didn't have ice armor and flame shield, we wouldn't get through any of it, and we could probably stick any skill on the other thing that worked together and still achieve. So do help me out and give me suggestions of builds that you trust that are plug and play, or you'd like to see me have a go at builds that you have been able to do without all the uniques and the ubers, and have pretty much a think fresh player. New player comes in, there's an event, oh, I can get a lot of gold and start my season 4 off real nice because I'm late. Think that. Fresh player. I have no uniques, no stash, no money, no nothing to just blow on it, all the everything. That's where I want to sort of think. I don't want I've got all this awesome gear and look, this build's awesome. No, it's the fact that you got all the gear that's hiding the fact that the build's trash. But as I said, do send in the comments and all that your suggestions. Hit all those buttons, would be nice and appreciated. And if you wish to support, hit the super thanks. That would mean a lot to me and my family. But until next time, where hopefully try some of your builds or some of the ones that I've found that I want to try. That's a cool little effect. I'll catch you next time, and goodbye.